5 most useless pieces of advice that everyone gives. This is according to Cracked.com. We're going to break it down, but first thoughts, 5 words or less.
Just calm down.
Judgment's just sexier than empathy.
My advice? Half as long. The article.
Yes! Only offer advice when asked. I think that's a good piece of advice my parents always gave me.
That is fantastic.
Did you ask for that advice?
Brett, I'm going to punch
Probably
you.
Probably not. But your parents are in a different category. They're supposed to give you advice when not asked. Okay, thank you, Jarrett, for having my back. 2 points for Jarrett. Okay, so we're going to start with number 5. It says the useless piece of advice: you just need to watch what you eat or drink or smoke. And the author of the article says that you never know what that person is going through, and to just say things like, you need to stop eating or drinking. You don't know if they're battling addiction, if they're in recovery. You don't know any of that. So it's better to come from a standpoint of, when I went through what you were going through, this is what worked for me. And it's basically offering the same advice, but coming from a compassionate, empathetic notion.
Well, there's a huge difference between empathy and sympathy. Empathy is much harder to imagine a thing someone's going through, to identify that thing in my own life, and then to speak to a person and just say, you know, instead of like give them advice, to say like, that sounds really hard, or, you know, and I'm glad you told me.
You're
like,
right.
Now you're not alone in that.
Yeah.
But that's so much harder for people. Partly because it's like sympathy feels more proactive. Like you feel like you should be giving advice. It feels like almost like I should be doing something more than saying I'm so sorry and I'm here. But like that's way more helpful than anything else.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's helpful is a tough word.
Yeah.
Because you got to identify what the problem with the person is, what problem they're having. Because sometimes people really do want advice. Like they really want advice. And sometimes, like when I have trouble and someone's like, "Oh, that's tough," I'm like, "No, help me."
Right.
But I can't just leave. Yes, I know. I also know that I'm having a tough time right now.
Right. Yeah.
Also, when it comes down to like dietary things, like that's such like a minefield anyway. That I think telling people to watch what they eat, it's just so like in passing, and what they eat is not what's making them upset.
For sure. Okay, number 4. The number 4 most useless piece of advice is you just need to cheer up. Okay, so the author really went into detail about this one, so I'm just going to highlight one paragraph that stood out to me. The author says, as someone who is frequently in bad moods, the worst part is knowing that everyone is going to bug you about it, so you now have the added pressure of having to hide it from everyone. So they suggest, or the author suggests, instead, maybe try saying, quote, "So how are things going?" And then they said that, you know what, some people may not be open to talking to you about their problems. That's okay, but at least you're opening up the forum by asking them a question that gives them the opportunity to talk about what's putting them in that bad mood. I love it.
I'd like to build on this because some people have this uncanny ability to take the right words, which that is the right thing to say, is how you feeling, but some people say it like, "So how are you feeling?" In a way that they might as well be saying, just cheer up, you dick. You need to add that they actually need to care about how the person's
also
doing.
That you look sad drives me insane.
Or smile.
Maybe this is just my resting face, and I'm not sad. It's like when you're walking down the street and an old man comes up, "Hey, you should smile. It would make my day." I'm like, I want to punch you in the face. This is my natural resting face. Why should I be smiling every second for you, old man? You're gonna die soon. I understand you need a little bit of cheer, but I'm not the person that's gonna give that to you. Bitch, please.
The smile thing gets on me the worst. Like, I'll be like standing in line at Starbucks and the person in front of me will look behind me and be like, "Smile?" I'm like, why? How weird would it be if I'm standing in line smiling? That's weird.
Yes, thank you. Me personally, I'm a really open person, so if I'm going through something, I will share it with you. If not, don't pry.
Especially if they are actually feeling bad. It's not supposed to be about you and how you're responding to them seeming to feel bad.
Yeah.
You know?
Number 3, you just need to believe in yourself. This one's interesting. It's actually, I suggest everybody read the article because this one is tough for me to break down in the allotted time that we have. But basically what the author was stating, that confidence comes from experience. So by just loosely stating you need to believe in yourself, it doesn't really work, because in order to believe in yourself, in order to have that confidence, you need to create and experience roadblocks and come out on top and then gain more confidence, and then you really do have confidence, so it's not false confidence.
Right. A lot of this advice in this article is people feeling like they need to say something
So they say
these
these five things.
It's the
maxims.
wrong word
Just to avoid maxims.
Well, he says instead of saying you just need to believe in yourself, he says try saying this instead. Quote, remember that ultimately nobody gives a fuck. And he breaks that down because he says most people's lack of confidence and lack of believing in themselves is the fear that they're going to fall flat on their face. And so he wants to remind people that at the end of the day, we're all the lead in our own dramas. We're all worried about ourselves, so that if you do fall flat on your face, no one really cares because we're all caught up in our own lives.
A lot of people just get nervous. And the problem with nervousness is it just really doesn't accomplish anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that the you'd better instead say no one gives a f is one of maybe a handful of different pieces of advice you can give people to get them not to worry about being nervous anymore.
Great point.
I feel like the energy of like, you got this and you're enough is like basically.
Yeah,
like
and also have a
drink.
drink. Just have a drink.
Yeah.
Do a shot and
Just
go
loosen
nail it.
up.
Yes.
And number 2, just be yourself. He says, but if you're walking into a situation where you need to make a good impression and all you have to go on is just be yourself, he says, I don't even know what this means. So what he says is that, this is such a really lengthy response, but he's saying when you go into a room, you have to read the signals and you have to be aware that there are rules in society. So you have to understand that if you show up to a job interview dressed, you know, with hot pink hair and like a little midriff shirt, they're not going to see you as the banker that they're about to hire. So what he's trying to say is, yes, be yourself, yes, believe in yourself, all the things that we touched upon in the previous points, but to also take into consideration all those social cues and to apply them on how people will perceive you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's so much that you guys have to read.
It's one of the best lines in Anchorman 2 is, read the room, Ron. You know.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
So read the room.
There's a lot of room to express, like, be yourself within restriction.
Yeah.
Like is it like haiku? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like 575, you can still put whatever you want within 575 and really make it yours.
Absolutely. So he says, according to number 2, he said it's better to say this instead. Learn how you look to other people.
When you're first like meeting someone, you have to like put out the part of yourself that you like slowly want them to
There's
like
a
understand.
dance. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm like I'll sit in my bed and we will sit there and like stare at each other's faces as my best friend, and we will just like make weird faces and go like that to each other. It doesn't mean I'm going to do that with somebody that I'm just dating.
Exactly. Okay, and the number 1 most useless piece of advice is you just need to find what you were meant to do with your life. Cool. And then the author goes on to say, you just need to find the girl, guy you're meant to be with. Really, any advice that implies you were meant to have a certain life due to a divine plan. Oh my gosh, there's so much here. Basically saying that people that say that kind of like, in his opinion, relinquish everything to God's plan, that it will all work out and not necessarily
My mom says that.
Put in the work, but like that everything's going to work out the way it's supposed to. He also says God's plan for you as laid out in the book is for you to not act like a shithead. Nowhere does it say that every man and woman has a soulmate they're destined to find, or a career they're destined to be successful in, or a city that they are destined to live in. Now, really quickly, I have to defend this point a little bit because I'm not a religious person by any means, but I am spiritual to the point where, listen, I think it's a hybrid of putting in the work,
exactly,
working your ass off, but then also kind of relinquishing some control of, okay, so I put in the work, now let's just wait and see what happens, and trusting and having faith that your work will equate to success.
Exactly.
That's my philosophy.
I'm so with you.
Yeah, it's like what you're meant to do.
Yeah.
When someone says that doesn't, to me, ultimately mean this is what God put you on this earth to do.
Right.
It's just like you need to find out what you were meant to do. And I just want to say, oh, that's it.
I don't know, because I like to believe in that kind of stuff to some degree.
Me
but
too.
like it still requires something from you.
Exactly. So instead of saying you just need to find out what you were meant to do in your life, you should say this instead. If this is what you want to do, you have to keep trying. Just find what you were meant to do.
My biggest takeaway from it was don't put the word just in front of it. Like, it's so easy to say, just do this, just do that. Because for some people, it's not that easy.
It takes away the gravity of what they're going
Yes.
through. Okay, so what did you guys think about this article, the 5 most useless pieces of advice everyone gives? Did you guys agree with the article? Did you like it? Was there any pieces of advice that you thought are useless that were left out in the article? If so, please let us know in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you all next time on Pop Trigger.